Ask that you would stand with me for the reading of God's holy word. It comes to us again today from the book of Joshua, chapter 6, verse 20, and the Message translation says, "The priests blew the trumpets, and when the people heard the blast of the trumpets, they gave a thunderclap shout, and the wall fell at once. The people rushed straight into the city and took it." You may be seated in God's house. I'd like to tag this particular message and text as we continue a series we started a few weeks ago entitled Get It Done, as this is part 2 in that series. But I'd like to tag this particular message for this day with the title Soul Force. Soul Force. The last time we shared together, God revealed to us that it's time for us to get some things done. It's time for us to do the illogical, to climb the unreachable, and to lift the unbearable. It's time, God says, to get it done. To get done unity of our passion, unity of what pushes us, and unity of our collective purpose. To be done with hatred and internal conflict. To be done with inconsistency and self-doubt. To be done with our negative and pessimistic outlooks. To be done with the walls that we've built to hold things out. To be done with our timidity and our infighting. And to go to a place where God's promises, God's purpose, and His plan are all our focus. Because we've got poverty to eradicate, relationships to build, businesses to plant, degrees to receive, scholarships to earn, barriers to break, children to love, churches to connect, diseases to be cured, and mindsets to change. God has positioned us uniquely in this time in our history to make a distinct difference. We must have unity because unity is what's necessary for our cause. If you analyze history, you understand that civilizations have risen upon the face of the earth. Almost all of them have fallen by the wayside and been utterly destroyed. What destroyed them, however, was not some external invasion. It was not external collapse, but what has destroyed civilization after civilization is internal decay and infighting. And look at our world today. A world where the Donald is profiting from what I think is a phony political campaign, panhandling around people's fears and insecurities about race and religion. Guess what? The president of Liberty University, a supposedly Christian university, at their convocation, he told all of the students to go get conceal and carry permits and carry guns on campus at Liberty Christian University. He wants college kids who get drunk and party, college kids who are ill-equipped to even get to class on time. He wants them walking around campus with guns on their hip. Guess, we are a nation divided. If President Obama says the sky is blue, the poll will say that 45% of America believes that he's lying to the American people. This reflects deep internal national division that could be our national downfall and demise. Every time God gives us another chance to come together, whether through tragedy or triumph, every time we have a chance to galvanize and grow, to learn from our errors and issues, we miss the moment because we are a nation that's so deeply divided by race and class, divided by party and philosophy. And so guess what? It's the church's job to lead the way in showing the nation and the world how to get this thing done. Help me, Holy Ghost. And in a real sense, if the church, individual and universal, if we're not careful, we will fall victim to the same destruction and decay. Because God is calling us to have the soul and commitment to make unity a reality in His church. Because my God can sure enough use a unified group of people. It doesn't matter if it's 2,000 or 2. If their folks are gathered together in unity in the name of God, God can do some mighty things with you. A group of people who's aligned and has an allegiance, a group of people who are in agreement with each other. He can use a determined and dedicated people to get this thing done. And while we all bemoan and lament our condition, while we wrestle with our own depravity, don't forget that 2/3 of our brothers and sisters in the world go to bed hungry every night. Are undernourished. They have poor housing. They wear tattered clothing. Many of our brothers and sisters have no houses or beds on which to sleep. Their only beds are the sidewalks of the cities and the dusty roads of the villages in which they live. Many of our brothers and sisters and children of God have never seen a doctor or a dentist. So before we start complaining about our financial condition, before we complain about trivial and meaningless stuff, before we complain about somebody talking about me or not liking me, ask God to help you to remember that there's a greater work for you to do, to remember that there's love to give, hope to restore, and peace to impart. We must remember that there's work that God is calling us to get done. Now, in order to get this thing done, we must not rely independently on physical force and dexterity. We must not simply be impressed by large crowds and the size of our help, but we must rely on soul force. Soul force. See, soul force is that force that makes music and melodies, that force that caused Marvin to find the grapevine, Otis to discover the Doc and the Bay, Biggie to find Juicy, Run DMC to find their Adidas. It helped them. It helped the Dixie Cups to go to the Chapel of Love, Elvis, his blue suede shoes, Chubby to find his twist, Michael to find Thriller, Billie Jean, and to heal the world. I know y'all super saved, so it was soul force that made Abraham leave his country, Joseph to dream, Noah build an ark, Moses face Pharaoh, David write songs, Solomon write Proverbs, Isaiah see the Prince of Peace. It made Peter preach good news to the poor, Paul plant churches, and it made Jesus come through 42 generations. And when he came, he didn't come to save your body, he didn't come to save your intellect, he didn't come to save your money, but he came to save your soul. So it is your soul that must be the driving force in ministry. Because as we've discovered from our ancestry, if we got soul, if our souls are committed, if our souls are driven, then we are a force to be reckoned with in the world. And see, if the church could ever be led by soul force that connects us directly to God's Spirit, then we would make waves in the world. Speaking to a large audience, D.L. Moody, he held up a glass and he asked the people in the crowd, how can I get the air out of this glass? One man shouted, you can suck it out with a vacuum pump. Moody replied, that would create a vacuum and it would break the glass. It would shatter the glass. Well, after numerous other suggestions, Moody just laughed and smiled. And guess what he did? He picked up a pitcher of water and he filled the glass to the top. Help me, Jesus. There, he said, now all the air is removed. He went on to explain that victory in Christianity and in your life is not accomplished by sucking out a sin here and there, but by being filled with the Holy Ghost. The cup had to be empty before it could help me, Jesus. The cup had to be empty before he could fill it up. The moment your heart is emptied of pride and selfishness, ambition, and everything that's contrary to God's will, then guess what God does? He drops the Holy Ghost in there when they're in every corner of your heart. And guess what, church? We need some folks in the church who are filled with the Holy Spirit way down in your soul. Not just on your outside, not just how you look. We need some folks that got Holy Ghost down in your soul. Let me try it like this. I told you a few years ago a story about when I learned to cook on the grill. I left out a few details. However, when we first got married, of course, we didn't even have a little money. We had no money when we first got married, and so I called myself getting a grill. I went to the grocery store. I got a grill from the grocery store. You grocery store grill. I didn't go to the store. I didn't go to the hardware. I got a grill from one of the aisles in the grocery store. It was $9.99. A grill for $9.99, and so I tried. I'm trying to be fancy and cook on the grill. To start the fire, put the coals in the grill, and I saturated the coals with lighter fluid, and I let it sit for a little while, and then I lit the coals and I let them burn for a few minutes. When the fire was burning, it was raging. It was well with the coals. I started putting my burgers and my hot dogs on the grill. Fire is raging up through the coals. I put my food on the grill while the fire is just blasting up through this little teeny. The grill was about this tall, about this high, and I put the fire in it, and then a few minutes later the coals began to smoke and the fire dried out. My burgers hadn't burnt yet, but I'm sure they were on their way. So I was frustrated. I took my stuff in the house, and I just cooked it on the stove. And I told Leah, I said, I got to get a gas grill. I can't do nothing with these coals. I learned later on that when the fire was burning well, I put the food on the grill, but I was wrong. I learned, some of y'all knew this already, but I learned that you don't barbecue with the coals in the fire. You got to wait until the fire is in the coals, which makes them red hot. You got to wait until the fire is inside the coals. Then you can cook all you want to cook. When it's in the coals, you can barbecue with the best of them. And God just told me, he reminded me of that if we want to get this thing done, then we need some church folks who got some stuff burning down in your soul, some folks who are saturated with God's Spirit, some people who will tell God, saturate me on the inside, change me, use me, mold me, make me, because it ain't until the fire is on the inside, until it rings in your soul, until it burns on the inside, until it's not just about how you look on the outside, until the fire is in your life, until the desire is in your soul, till the commitment is in your soul, until God's Spirit is in your soul, until you desperately want unity for our work. We've been waiting, church, for the fire to be inside of all of us. See, because when it's inside, nothing can take your joy. Nothing. When it's inside, nothing can steal your peace. Nothing will sidetrack you. And when it's inside, you really will love your neighbor. You'll pray for your doubters. You live on purpose. You walk by faith. You work together with folks you've never worked with before. You become more like Jesus. It's got to be in the coals. The children of Israel, they had that fire inside of them. They were led by soul force, which allowed them to do what was illogical to defeat the city of Jericho. See, soul force was what encouraged them to march and play music for 7 days. Soul force kept them bickering and arguing with Joshua about God's plan. See, we would have been fussing and fighting outside of the wall about whose plan was the best plan, but they decided that they were going to do what God told them to do because it was in their soul. The fire was in their soul. The dedication was in their soul. The commitment was in their soul, and their desire to follow God was greater than their individual need to be recognized or to get shine. They were unified by their soul force, and their unity teaches us some additional lessons that we can apply to our lives, lessons that will help us answer the question, how God do we unify ourselves and be led by the Spirit that's within? How do we all connect with the soul force? Good question. Not by power nor by might, but by my Spirit, says the Lord. That's soul force. Two answers, and I'm going to sit down first. If you want to become and be led by our soul force, then we must learn to minimize our opposition. Minimize our opposition. Stop giving the devil so much credit. Minimize our opposition. Joshua gets the instruction from God, and when he receives his mission, he doesn't start crying and complaining about how hard it's going to be to fight the Jerichites. Even though they came in like a heavyweight fighter, standing 6'5" and 275, even though all of the people who were betting on the game and betting on the fight, they were betting on the battle, but they were putting their money on Jericho. Even though there were folks who were there who were bigger than them and better than them, who had jumped on the Jericho bandwagon, God tells Joshua, I already gave you the victory. Jericho is already defeated. Joshua could have said, God, wait a minute, God, they got all the first round picks over there, and they got skills and stamina, and we got a few cats from the rec leagues who are bald and old with horns and trumpets. That's all. They can't fight. All they can do is play music. We got guys ain't never been in a fight. They don't know how to use a weapon. They just commenting on fights, and you telling me that we already got victory? He could have looked at the wall and talked about how tall it was, how thick it was, how he could have marveled at his strength. But I like what Joshua does. Joshua doesn't say anything to God. Joshua in the text is like a good quarterback. He got the play from the coach. He didn't ask the coach a question. He doesn't say a word to the coach. He just nodded his head, and in agreement goes to the huddle and gets the boys together, and he says, this is what the coach says we got to do. He goes in the huddle. He tells them what God told him to tell him. He never focused on the opposition. He didn't think highly enough of his opposition for it to command his attention, so losing was never an option. And you and I got to stop giving the devil authority and credit for stuff that happens around us. We give the devil credit for spilling coffee on our clothes. The devil didn't want me to get to church this morning because he wouldn't let my coffee wasn't hot enough. the devil, giving the devil that kind of credit. The devil can't do that to you. As a matter of fact, you ought to do like Joshua and not even talk about the devil, but you ought to be so confident in God that you just focus on what God says. No need for me to give the devil credit for disruption and destruction. I'm just going to give my God credit for building and planting, God credit for reaping and sowing. I'm going to give God credit for all that's good and perfect. The devil doesn't deserve your attention. And if we don't give the adversary our attention, then we're minimizing our opposition. We ain't got enough money. We don't have enough people. We don't have, these are all those opposition. You got to minimize your opposition. If God says do it, then you say I can do it because God said I can do it. And if God said I can do it, he's going to give me everything I need to get it done. Once God speaks, Joshua doesn't focus at all on what the other team is doing. He doesn't even care. He just starts doing what God tells him to do. So church, while the obstacles might seem great, remember that our God is greater. So we have the authority to minimize our opposition, because the reality is that Joshua couldn't see the whole picture, and neither can we. So when God, who sits high and looks low, God who owns the cattle and the hills, God who created the earth out of nothing, God who flung the stars into the sky, God who made us from dirt and put his image in our brow, when God says something, understand God has a better seat than you have, so you might as well listen to what he says. And since he says in Jesus we have victory, then we need to stop talking about what we can't do and start doing what we can do. We have victory in every area of our lives. We got victory in education, victory in church, victory in the street, victory in our marriages, victory in our money, victory in our jobs, victory in our neighborhoods. Our name is not defeat, but our name is victory. You ought to stand up and tell that mountain to get out of your way. Tell that pit, get out of my way. Tell that trouble, get out of my way and find somewhere else to go. Tell the demonic, get out of my way, because you're no match for the God that I serve. Y'all don't believe this. You don't believe this says no weapon formed against me shall prosper, and every tongue that rises against me in judgment he shall condemn. You don't believe the Lord is my light and my salvation. Whom shall I fear? The Lord is the strength of my life. Of whom shall I? The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. You got to believe that God is what he says he is. That there was a preacher who had to fly. He was flying for the first time to preach somewhere on a Friday night. He was told at the last minute that he had to attend a meeting for his job on Friday morning. So right away he called the airline he had purchased his ticket from so he could find out what his options were, since he was clearly going to miss his 8:30 Friday morning flight. Well, the sister on the phone said that usually he could fly standby on any flight leaving that day, but the problem was all of the flights had been oversold. He then went to the airport and asked for a manager. The manager asked him why he was going to Chicago, and he told her he was going there to preach for one of his friends. She then put him on a direct flight when all of the direct flights were supposed to be oversold. In fact, she put the brother in first class. She put him in first class. That's not the point, though. He asked her how she was able to get him on a flight, much less in first class, when the sister on the phone said it could not be done. She looked him in the eye and paused and said, "Young man, what you don't understand is I'm the manager. I'm in charge. And I can see things in the system that other folks can't see. I'm in charge, and I can see stuff in here that other folks can't see." Can I share something with you? All God is trying to tell you is don't worry about the stuff you can't see. Just because you can't see it don't mean God doesn't see it. Don't you worry about control, because God is the manager, and he can see things in your life that other folks can't see. He knows your down sitting and your uprising. He knows your pitfalls and your plateaus. And I know I got a witness in here who can testify that I didn't see it, but God said it anyhow. I couldn't see it, but God stepped in. I couldn't see how I would make it. I couldn't see how I would get over. I didn't see how we would get it done. I couldn't see how he was going to do it, but I got to believe that God can see stuff that I can't see, so I got to trust in God. You got to trust that if God said you can do it, then you can do it. If he said greater works, then get it done. If he said head and not tail, then get it done. If he said lender, not borrower, then get it done. If he said speak it as if it's already done, then you better talk like God has already done it. And sometimes where he leads you will be crazy. It'll send you, it might look funny. Where he takes you might not be comfortable, but you got to make up your mind that if God sends me, I'm going to go, because when I go, I'll be equipped. When I go, I'll be armed. When I go, I'll be ready. When I go, I've got help. You got to minimize your opposition. But not only do you minimize your opposition, but secondly and finally, and I'm done, you got to maximize your opportunity. Got to maximize the opportunity. Joshua and the Israelites didn't wait for somebody else to do what God told them to do, but they took advantage of their moment every day to walk in victory. One of the interesting thing about this team of Israelites that God showed me was that their moment was every day. Too often we are conditioned to sit back and wait for some cataclysmic and mystical moment, some majestical moment that falls from the sky, and I'm waiting on God to tell me what I'm supposed to do. We've been told that our moment is coming, that it's on its way. God is getting ready to do something for you, and it's on its way. It's coming. It's coming. You can miss your moment, but what God showed me was that every day that you rise is your moment. It is your moment. Every day He allows you to get up and fight again is your moment. Yesterday was your moment. Today is your moment, and if God lets you see tomorrow, tomorrow will be your moment. Every day He lets you get up. You ought to start thanking God for my moment. That's one of the reasons that God didn't just tell them to march on the seventh day when the wall was going to come down. It was to condition them to take advantage of every day and not sleep on today just because it seems mundane and monotonous, because it seems like you're going through the motions. But I've been sent to tell you that I know you might have been taught that your moment is coming, that your moment is on the way. TV preachers are good for telling you, if you send me some money, then God is going to bless you. You do something and a moment is going to be there. But God sent me to change that theology in the house that you know without a doubt that every day is your time. Every day is your moment. Every day is your chance. Every day is for greatness. Every day is for victory. Every day you got to say, it is my moment today. Right now is my time. The Israelites did not fear success. They were not scared of the enemy. And I would argue that the thing that has kept us from being a soul force is our fear of success and opportunity. But we got to flip the script and maximize our opportunity by walking with courage and faith. There was this pastor whose son came home one day from school and told his daddy he had a rough day in football practice and he wanted to quit. So the father told him that if he could look up the word in the dictionary, not online, but in the dictionary, he could find the definition of the word, he would let him quit. But if he couldn't find it, he'd have to keep fighting with courage. So he told his son, I don't want to hear what you think it means to quit. I want you to tell me what quit means to those who have studied the word, those who have studied it. So the son looked in the dictionary one day and ran to his daddy frustrated and said, Daddy, I can't find it in the dictionary. His daddy says, son, it's simple. Start laughing. Says, son, it's spelled Q-U-I-T. You smart. You know how to spell it. Go find it in the dictionary. So he said, well, you can't find it in the dictionary. Well, look in the thesaurus and see if you find it in there. The son looked in the thesaurus, couldn't find it in the thesaurus either. Daddy said, okay, son, I'm going to give you one more shot. We got some expensive encyclopedias. Look in the encyclopedia and see if you can find where somebody has studied the word quit. You got to just find quit. That's all. Q-U-I-T. I'm giving it to you. As a matter of fact, I'll pull the Q section out for you. The Q-U, you can have it. Look through it. Tell me what quit means. Well, the daddy he couldn't find it in the encyclopedia either, so daddy started laughing at him. He told his son, he said, look, son, before you and your sisters were born, I went through this house and I cut the page out of all the books that had the word quit on it. Help me, Jesus. He said, because I knew that one day there would come a time when you would want to give up on something. There would come a time when you would want to quit and throw in the towel. I knew there would come a day when you would be scared, but I wasn't going to give you that option. You weren't made to quit. I knew times would get hard. I knew obstacles would be great. I knew the road would get rough, but you ain't going to quit because it ain't a part of your vocabulary, because you are not a quitter, but God made you a winner. And God just sent me on my way home to tell somebody that you are not a quitter. You're not fearful, but you're fearfully and wonderfully made by God, and you have the victory. Do I have any warriors in here? We are winners. We are victorious. Quitting is not an option. Is there anybody here who will declare, I'm going to maximize my opportunity? Every day is a day of thanksgiving. Every day is a day of rejoicing. Every day is an opportunity. Every day is a day to build unity. Every day is a good day for God to lead you and guide you. You must maximize your opportunity to answer God's call, to stand in the gap, to unify ourselves, to give hope to the hopeless, give voice to our issues, to fight for the left out, to lift up a standard, to raise expectations, to promote the common welfare, to do justly and love mercy, and walk humbly with our God. And if you got breath in your body, it's always your moment. Doesn't matter how young you are. Doesn't matter how old you are. As long as you got breath in your body, it's your time and this is your place. So you must jump on the opportunity. The enemy has turned the ball over near our end zone, and we can't keep giving away these chances. We got to score a touchdown, because when the church scores, people get liberated. When the church scores, women stop being disrespected. When the church scores, men stand up in the faith. When the church scores, parents start parenting their children. When the church scores, people find their way back to Jesus, and it's time for us to score. No more field goals, church. No more punting the ball away. No more turnovers. We got the power to get the ball in the end zone with God. I'm almost done. I'm done. I'm done. I did bring a few friends who got in the end zone. No, Moses, you do know Moses scored and Pharaoh had to let God's people go. You do know that Joshua scored and the Jerichites were defeated. Gideon scored and the Midianites were threw in the towel. Samson scored and the Philistines fell flat. Ehud scored and the Moabites were run out of the stadium. Deborah scored and Jabin went down for the count. David scored and the Philistines were back again, but they got turned back. Jesus scored, and guess what happened? Hell got busted up. And the thing that they all have in common is they maximized their opportunity. They didn't miss their everyday moment, and you can't afford to miss yours. We can't afford to miss ours. We must maximize our opportunity, so we don't need to walk in fear, but walk in courage in our God, and we will maximize our opportunity. And guess what? We can have soul force. We can be touched by soul force. We can be unified through soul force, because I know a soul force whose voice has rang through the ages. I know a force who gave voice to our struggle with sin. It didn't look like much of a voice when it came through a virgin named Mary. It didn't look like much of a voice when it was wrapped in swaddling clothes and laying in that manger. And when we need it, he gives us a voice to our prayers that we don't even know how to pray right. And I've heard many voices of people down through the ages, just like you and me. I've heard the voice of Buddha, but that voice rests in a tomb. I've heard the voice of Confucius, but his body has been turned to dust. I've heard the voices of kings and emperors, warriors and statesmen, presidents and potentates. I've heard voices from government. I've heard voices from industry. I've heard the voice of millionaires and billionaires, but all of them have been silenced, and they've had to go their way. But I heard another voice who cried out from the wilderness, and he said, I am the way, the truth, and the life. I heard another voice that said, come unto me, all ye that labor and are heavy laden, and I will give you rest. I heard another voice that said, greater is he that's in you than he that's in the world. I heard a voice that said, Father, into thy hands I commend my spirit. I heard another voice say, it is finished. I heard a voice be silenced by the chilly hands of death. I heard a voice saying, I'll be gone just a little while. I heard a voice saying, I had to go down to the lower regime. I heard a voice saying, I had to tie up death and hell and open up the gate. I had to go down, and when I was on my way out, I heard the imps of hell say, ride on, King Jesus, ride on. I heard a voice that was silent on Friday. It was silent on Saturday. It was silent Saturday night. But early, and I mean early, on Sunday morning, he made an announcement. He said, I was he that was dead, but I'm for life forevermore. His announcement was, I've got all power in my hands. Is there anybody here who knows that name? What's that name? Jesus. And if Jesus is on your side, then you got soul force. In Jesus, there is no opposition. In Jesus, because the Lord will fight your battles. For eyes have not seen, and ears have not heard, and it hadn't entered into the hearts of men what God has in store for those who love him. In Jesus, no weapon formed against you shall prosper. In Jesus, for sickness, he's a doctor. For loneliness, he's your friend. For your wounds, he'll heal your body. For your storm, he'll be your shelter. For your sadness, he'll be your joy. For confusion, he'll be your way. He'll be your way and your way maker. Say yes. Yes. His name is Jesus. Is there anybody glad about Jesus the Christ? Is there anybody here that'll thank God for Jesus? That'll thank him for Jesus? Yes. Yes. Oh, it is Jesus. Jesus minimized our opposition. He minimized our opposition. God could have said it's too much. It's too much to try to save humanity. It's too much to send my only begotten son through Mary. It's too much. They're not going to listen anyway. But he minimized the opposition. And then Jesus, in coming, maximized the opportunity. Maximize the opportunity. Greater love haveth no man than this, than one who would lay down his life for a friend. Stand with me. Got to be led by soul force. Oh, it's Jesus. Oh, it is Jesus. For my soul. My soul, my soul. Why? For I have touched the hem of his garment, and his blood has made me whole. Father God,